today I brought you another amazing trainer and competitor. And not only that, one of my great friends, Pedro Borges. And we also have here Cinda Didier. Is that how you pronounce it? And it's French, it's like that, right?
Yeah, it is. Didier. Didier.
And she is from Alberta, Canada. She's here visiting us here in Brazil. And she wanted to be a part of this because our friend Pedro here speaks really good English. So today's interview ought to be really fantastic.
Side note, it is hard to find English people here.
Yeah, we owe that to my 3 years in Texas.
Yes.
So let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, Pedro. Okay, so we want to know, what does an average training day look like for you?
And tell us a little about yourself too. I mean, we know about you, so why don't you tell everybody?
Yes.
Well, like I said, I lived in Texas for 3 years while I was getting my master's. I always ran horses, always rode barrel horses since I was 9 years old. But I really became a trainer after my experience in Texas because I got to ride a bunch of horses and stay with a trainer. So I came back and I started riding my own. And it's a little bit different in Brazil. We're going to go through that a little bit, but I just don't ride for a bunch of people. You know, I don't have a training center. People don't send me horses. I go to their place, I coach them, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, and I ride my own colts. And I have a small breeding program, a couple of mares, and I just flush them and I ride their babies now. Now this is actually the first year that I'm actually riding their babies.
And how excited are you?
Oh, very much, because it's probably the best set of colts that I got in the last 5 years.
That's
so
awesome.
Well, and
I'm
I think
really
it
excited.
helps too, right? Like, I mean, if you rode the parents and you rode the mares,
Oh, yeah.
it's gotta help.
Oh yeah, I rode all their moms, so it helps, and it helps that I flush my fillies too before I sell them. So I train them in the beginning, so I know what to do with their babies also.
So when you flush them, like how many embryos do you?
Well, I try not to get a bunch of embryos. I do have one broodmare that I use as a broodmare. She's an own daughter, Dash to Fame.
Yeah.
And I try to flush her more, so I'll get 2 or 3. This year we have 4 because she ovulated 2. So we got 4 from her to be born next year. But like last year, she didn't give any. So last year I had to use other mares.
That's darn.
Your average is good.
Yeah, my average is good. My average is 2 a year. She gives me 2 a year, and that's perfect. So I mean, we got this understanding going on, and it helps. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
She came with me from Texas,
Okay.
so I didn't get to run her a bunch, but I got to ride her
Yeah.
a lot, and she was really cool. She's really cool, and her babies are a lot like her. So that's really exciting.
So while you were in Texas, is that when you discovered your favorite bloodlines?
Well, I learned a lot about bloodlines there. I knew a lot of bloodlines here, and also when Shannon moved, it was kind of funny because there are a lot of imported horses, and she'd be like, "Oh, this horse is by so-and-so stud and out of so-and-so mare," and then would be a Brazilian horse, and I'm like, "Oh, this horse is by so-and-so stud and by so-and-so mare."
I didn't know what he was talking about, and he didn't know what I was talking about.
and
But now we are caught up.
And
Guys
we
are
learned a
great.
lot
We're
from
caught
each
up.
other. Yeah, we learned a lot from each other with that. And
What a fun duo.
of course, when I moved to Texas, I got to ride a bunch of the bloodlines that I only heard of,
Right.
you know, and it was really awesome. It was an amazing experience, and I kind of know where to go for my riding, my style, you know, things that fit me, and it taught me a lot.
What would
you know?
your favorites?
My favorite horses to ride.
Bloodlines.
I really like firewater horses. You know, always have. There was this one horse that was a grandson of firewater that was super cool. I loved riding the racing free bred horses. Those horses are amazing. I rode one that was, I think it was out of a daughter of racing free that was out of a granddaughter secretariat or something like that. He was super cool. And well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of bloodlines. You know how it is, and there's a lot of stuff that works. So I don't know. I guess I try to stay away from the hotter bloodlines. You know, the late mature bloodlines. So there are a lot of great horses that are bred to run, and they will really cool down and be good barrel horses once they're 8 or 9. But I only ride them for their first couple of years, you know.
So what bloodlines would you consider to
I
get
like
along?
what's popular because there's a reason they're popular. I love Frenchman's guys, even though they're not super popular here in Brazil. Even now that they're good broodmare sires,
Yeah.
but people don't really get along with them here.
Okay.
But I love the Fames, I love the Traces, I love the Dash for Perks. The Victory Flies, I can get along with them pretty good, I guess. And that's a bloodlines that there's not in America, but
Yeah.
it's really famous here. The Shady Leos are amazing.
Yeah.
They are amazing horses, and Shady Leo has a bunch of studs here that are still alive, brothers to El Shady and all these others, and they all produce. It's a very strong bloodline. They
And
all
he's the
produce
number one
really
broodmare
nice.
sire in
Yeah,
Brazil
he
still,
is.
even though he's been dead for years.
For 20 years. I mean, it's crazy. And I guess what's more popular, there's a reason the popular bloodlines are popular, and I feel like a lot of people try to go against that sometimes. And it's okay. I mean, we have so many options that, it's enticing for us to go look for something else, or maybe find a new bloodline
Yeah,
that
see what
a
works.
really runner that can really turn. But there's a reason why the populars are popular.
Yeah,
So
they kind of make their own path.
I try to go with statistics.
Yeah.
There are some that are popular that I don't really care for, but there are some that I really get along. So I try to stay on what fits my style and what fits me better. And it's easy for me, like you said, because I rode all their mothers.
Right.
So a lot of even their father features are not, I can still get with it because I know a lot about the other side.
Well, and I think it's interesting, everyone that we've interviewed or talked to all kind of says the same thing. I go with the bloodlines that fit me, and it goes to show that all the bloodlines, if you take the top 50 stallions in Brazil or in USA, any one of those stallions is a great stallion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's neat that we have the options to pick and choose now stallions that fit our own personal styles. You don't
have to
you don't
ride
have to
what's
have a
out
dash to
there.
fame to be a winner,
Yeah.
and that's what's cool.
And also, we've had Dash to Fame semen here forever, and we have a lot of nice Dash to Fame studs, and people really use those studs here. They really do. So I guess it's kind of like in America, where you also have a bunch of really nice
like Dash
to
to
Fame
Heaven
studs.
is really coming up. Dash to Heaven and Aim to Fame. We have a horse called Aim to Fame here. He's one of the
It's
top 5
amazing,
stallions in
yeah.
Brazil. He can maybe even outproduce Dash to Fame.
Yeah, because he's still young, man.
He's the Dash to Heaven of Brazil.
Yeah.
If you want to go with a choice like that. But that's what's really cool about both countries now is they're getting intertwined and you have these options. And
And still different horses. So I mean, in 30 years from now, you have a son of KR Moose or Dash to Heaven that will go do great things, and it will be still different bloodlines. So I guess there's a lot of growing still, to mix
Evolution.
those two kinds of horses, because
Bringing the best of the best.
yeah. And I guess now Americans are also, understanding the El Shadys, and they're seeing that, he's such a nice producer. They can really run, they can really turn, they can really take it. So I guess, it's refreshing for both sides.
And that's what's impressed me so much with the Shady Leo bloodlines. When I came to Brazil, I was like, what is that? The horse is like, I've never, there's a little flit bar, kind of like a sugar
Well,
bar.
he's bred kind of like split bar.
He
His
is.
sugar
But
bars
what's
and
so
Leo.
cool about them is when I first started riding them, I was like, they are so fast and so quick and so sound. Like I've had several horses, Shady Leo bred horses, and I don't think I've had to inject one or even take it to the vet for anything. I mean,
They're tough horses. They're
super,
really
super
tough
tough.
horses.
They do have a little bit of I call it their teenage streak. It's about 6 months where they try to outsmart you. And once you get past that 6 months, they're the best horse you'll ever own.
Yeah, that's very true.
So speaking of drugs, what kind of medicines would you use?
Well, we have testing on most shows here, okay? Most of the big shows, at least. And usually we have the one class that's usually the last class for the opens, or that they don't test, which is the jackpot. Here they call it the Chiratema, which is the 4D, 5D, 10D sometimes. And usually
and not to interrupt you, the reason they do that is because everything here is governed by the association, the Quarter Horse Association of Brazil, called the ABQM. And the ABQM monitors the classes that are like quarter horse shows, but the open 4Ds, they don't count them. They're kind of like for fun for the shows.
It's just money. They don't give points. You know,
Yeah,
you don't get
So
ABQM
the
points for it.
association, even if someone breaks a world record in a
Jackpot.
open 4D, like in a jackpot, the association doesn't count it. They don't consider it real.
Crazy.
Well, because sometimes they can, you know, shorten the
It doesn't
pattern.
follow
It doesn't,
there's
you
no
know, they
judge,
don't.
yeah.
There's no
Okay.
judge,
There's no
so
judge.
Right.
so you can do whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
So there's that, and the classes are something that really like make a difference because they usually test on the classes.
Right.
So I don't give a bunch of stuff because I am a small operation
Yeah.
all the way around. So sometimes before the 4D or the 5D, I will give a little bit of Dex, but my program doesn't really include drugs for racing. You know, it's not pre-racing or anything. I do feed turmeric on a daily basis
Yeah.
on my horses that are working because it's natural,
Yeah.
you know, anti-inflammatory. So I just give that every day, and I do give a supplement for iron so they can keep their immune system up.
Okay.
Because here we have the pure plasmosis and they can get anemic really fast. So, and we don't have a lot of climate change, but it does get them sometimes because it will get chilly at night and it will get dry and it will get, and it will rain and it will make, you know, it will be 100 degrees outside.
Maybe the difference of bugs that come out.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a bunch of stuff here that
Yes.
people don't have in North America
This
because
is a tropical country.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know we don't ever get snowed on, so
Yeah,
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
kill
really
all
kill
that.
off
No,
all
I
that-
remember one time, it was like the first 6 months I was here, and I was like, I called the vet and I said, my mare has tapeworms, and he's like, so? And I said, I just dewormed her like 2 weeks ago. He said, it's a tropical country, Shannon, deworm her again. And I was like, okay.
And it happens. I mean, it is what it is. We have to work around it, you know. So I work on a good feeding program, so my horses don't really feel it,
Right.
you know, and I try to work them on do their workout really well, you know, so they're always fit and they're always healthy. But you know, I don't really give a bunch of drugs. I will drug my horse just to make her feel more comfortable, you know, just to release some kind of tension or pain or something like that could
so-
bother her, but
Yeah.
you know.
But say you were going to be, you knew you were going to a show to be tested, would you?
No, I don't give
Just
anything.
at all?
I don't
And-
give
and you
anything
have-
for 7
So
days.
that's for 7 days.
Yeah, for 7
And
days.
it could
I
even
don't
be
give.
more depending on
Yeah,
what it
depending
is.
on what it is. If you give like Venepullman, you have to stop 30 days before because in 30 days it's still in the,
Yeah,
in the
same
horse's
with
growth.
injections,
So
like if you
it's
inject hawks or something.
yeah,
like
so
that,
you
30 days
can't
before.
really you know do a bunch of stuff. You can-
Because the repercussions are extremely severe.
yeah,
Tell
because
them
if
the
you
fines
get
here.
Yeah.
caught, so if you get caught, they will block the owner of the horse for entering for 4 months. For the 6 months, they will block the owner of the horse from entering.
Yeah.
They will block that horse from running with anybody else or under anybody else's name, and they will block the trainer
Oh my God.
to run with any horse for 4 to 6 months.
So there's a lot of
And
them.
So
a
there
fine,
is a
and a
lot.
monetary fine.
Yeah, and
depending
there-
the drug that's
yeah.
caught, it could be anywhere up to 32,000
Yeah,
reais,
it can
depending on
be
the drugs that they catch.
really salty.
Have you
So-
ever known anybody who's
Yeah.
actually been fined?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And there's a lot of people that have been fired for it too because it was, you know, the vet's fault or somebody else's fault, and so it's a big
it's
deal.
very bad for your reputation to get caught.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think I would probably be avoiding that at all costs.
So sometimes you just, you know that you have something that could help your horse, but you can't give it.
Right.
So you know,
Yeah.
if it's gonna be a deal breaker for you or for your run, in my case, I don't even go.
Yeah.
You know, if I have to drug.
Right.
But, you know, I'll go if I don't have to drug or, you know, since I work with younger horses, it's hardly ever have to drug.
Yes.
You know, I don't usually get bleeders. We get very few
Yeah, that's what I
bleeders
was gonna
here.
ask you about. What I asked Edgar, because one of the questions I get online a lot is, how come you guys don't use so much Lasix? Why is what is the program to not have Lasix? And you know, in our program, like mine, is just to keep the horse as fit as possible, and you don't need it.
Yes, and then, I mean, there's stuff you can do. You can jug them a little bit before. You can, you know, some vets ask for you to take the feed off 3 hours before and then water 2 hours before. And then you have a lighter horse that doesn't have to push as hard to, you know, break
Have you
something.
seen
or
any
anything.
bleeders here? I
Yeah,
know I haven't.
I've seen it over the years, but it was like or another, never a bunch. You
No,
know,
me
I've
either.
seen probably in, I don't know, 25 years that I do this, I've probably seen 3 bleeders
Wow.
my whole
Yeah,
life.
that's like me. I think the whole time I've been here, I think
And
I've
I
just
also
seen two.
also saw a guy that fixed one, but I don't know what he used. Okay,
Let's go.
I have seen this guy that really fixed the bleeder with something. I don't know what he did, but he did something. But you know, like I said, you don't see, like in America, you see, you know, horses bleeding through Lasix. You know, here.
Well, and let me just pipe in here. It's your interview, so I don't want to take it over. But with my working with the pyroplasmosis, you know, it affects the liver a lot. So after we do the treatments, we test the liver. And it started to make me realize that sometimes by giving these drugs that aren't necessary, it could be doing more damage than good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think in America, a lot of people are testing their horses' livers like we do. And another thing, here in Brazil, our blood tests, just an average blood test, is not very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually test our horses' blood quite often.
Well, we need to because we have to have the tests for them to travel.
No, I'm
so.
talking about hemoglobin.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
hemoglobin, like you know, the
Yeah.
red blood cells, the white blood cells, is the horse anemic, is he not?
Mhm.
And then for like another, like in dollars, would be for like another $15, you can get the liver test.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, it's really expensive to do that. But I think one reason why our horses can run on other drugs, and not, can run without these drugs, is we do so much preventative. You know, we test their blood, we try to keep them fit, we have some great supplements here that are all natural. You know, we've had to work around it, and I think it's what's helped. You know,
I do really think that, like, being here, just kind of seeing all this, it's very different from Canada. Like,
Well, I feel like the weather helps too. You
The
know,
weather.
for the horse not to bleed
But-
because
right,
it doesn't get
yeah.
cold. It doesn't, you know, and when it's
Yeah.
when it's hot, it's not super dry.
see, I
You
think
know.
I mean, but it's pretty dusty
I
here.
find like
It does get it,
Yeah.
but you know, that's when the weather's cool.
from what I've noticed, though, lots of our horses will bleed like when it's hot and humid. That's one
Yeah,
of the worst
yeah.
times, right? But I do find, I think that here, like, just it's just very different. Like the costs of veterinary work and stuff, like, is cheaper, but the cost for you guys going to a barrow race in general is more expensive. So it's kind of like
Yeah, yeah,
it's just very different.
yeah. That is very different.
Yeah.
That is very different. Well, there's a lot of differences between both
lot.
of them. So
Yeah, yeah.
And we're gonna get to that, but before we do, why don't you ask me about his strength?
Okay, tell us a day in your life. What do you do for training? Like, how do you
Okay.
keep them fit? The whole program.
What do you do? You wake up and you do what?
Yeah.
I wake up, I go to the ranch, I ride my colts. Usually it takes me until lunch. I check whenever.
What do you
What do you-
how
what do you
you
do
ride
in
them?
there?
You just
Oh, okay.
ride them around and
Well, sometimes I do just ride them around because we have room because I have my horses at the ranch. So sometimes I will get them and just go run pastures and go out on the road because you know they're young and they need to be exposed to other stuff. And I do take them in the arena. Usually I just warm them up a little bit. I trot them a little bit in smaller circles, straight lines, you know, bigger circles. Then I do lope them a little bit. There are days that I will do just drills. There are days that I will just work the pattern. And there are days that I will just work their fitness. So sometimes I just go in there, I warm them up, and I work on their fitness. I run laps around the arena. I lope them first, then I make them stretch a few times. Just one stretch. I train a lot when I'm doing this for them to speed up and slow down, speed up and slow down, because that's a lot of, that will help you a lot in your training in the arena. And I do have some drills that I like. I usually do them with tires, and I have the 4-tire exercise. I have two big tires, tractor tires for me to go around, and I do some drills with the barrels too.
And we'll see some of those drills
Yeah,
in his training videos.
we'll go through it when we're in the arena, and I do the pattern at least 2 or 3 times a week. Always at least once before I go to a race. I don't do the pattern every day, but I do it a lot, and I do that because I train a lot my horses in their muscle memory pattern. Okay, so the same muscle memory pattern that I want them to turn the barrels is what I do when I'm turning a tire, when I'm doing drill, or when I'm doing whatever. And then in the pattern, I just really practice my reference points and their muscle memory pattern around the turn. So they always have the same shape around the turn. So it's basically that, because since I work with a lot of young horses, I have to keep them fresh and keep them interested and, not let them get bored. And I feel like I will do, when I start one, I will do the pattern for 3 days and then I'll quit for 2 weeks and I'll do other stuff for 2 weeks. And then I'll come back to the pattern and I'll work the pattern for another 3 days and they're more on it,
Right.
So then when I take them out for another 2 weeks, when I come back, they're finished. They know where to go, they know how to turn, they're ready because throughout those 2 weeks, I'm working on their body, I'm working on their strength, I'm working on their turns,
Getting the broke
just
all around.
off the pattern. And then they start to understand other patterns too.
Right.
Like when you line up 3 barrels or when you do the square. So they start to figure it out and they'll start to learn, get more solid. The main thing for me is confidence. I try to really work on their confidence. And I feel like that's, one way to do it. And there are other ways that you can, keep doing because it's a process. You never quit training them. They're just more finished or less finished.
And how long would you say it would take to get one out of your program, excuse me, into somebody's hands that you're confident
Well,
that the horse will go?
That is interesting because I always tell people that I take it very slow. I don't go to a lot of races. I don't go every week. I try to haul them every week to practice in different places, but I don't really go, and I give a lot of breaks throughout my year. When they're doing really good, after they're going to 3 or 4 races really good, I just give them a month. Just so they can chill and be horses and grow, and then it take me another month to get them in shape. But it's just part of the process. I take longer, so I'd say my horses will take anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 years to get finished, where a kid can go and run.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, there are horses that will get there sooner, as a 4-year-old, but
Right. Yeah.
it depends the horse. It really depends the horse. Some horses will just, stay solid and stay consistent, and they can go on for an amateur person, as soon as they're 4 or 5. But some horses take longer. So it really depends the horse,
Possibly the bloodline.
Well, yeah, the bloodline plays
Yeah,
a lot of factors too. And not only that, I feel like, the way you raise them makes a huge difference.
yeah.
I've had a horse that I got over the internet, and she was a big disappointment because, she was small, she was weak, she cribbed.
Yeah, and that was with him. So.
And she never really developed, she never really grew.
Yeah.
So I see her, she's smaller, she's 4, coming 5, and she's smaller than my 3-year-olds. Because my 3-year-olds always had food and they always were out in the pasture and they always had, so they grew and they became important. And also I don't start them very young. I start them after they're 2.5, and I leave them with my colt starter, because he doesn't ride them every day either.
Right.
So he'll start working them from the ground, and then he'll get on them once a week, and then he'll start getting on them twice a week. So by the time, they're 3, they're ready to go to the arena, and then I can take over and, so I just do things really slowly. More than most people.
Right.
So
For
that's
Brazil.
that's why
More
that's
of the
why.
American
Yeah,
calendar style.
Well, yeah, because here, like we were talking,
So Pedro, being here, I've definitely noticed there's a lot of differences here from
Mhm.
the US or Canada to here. So can you kind of give us a little rundown?
Yeah, the main difference, what I tell a lot of my friends in America is, barrel racing here is more like racehorse in America.
Like the industry.
Yeah, like the industry is very different. Here you have the owners that have all this money, they have all these horses that they bought or they bred or, whatever. And they will send them to a trainer, big trainer, that will keep 40, 50, 60 horses.
Or have their own trainer.
Or
at the
have
house.
their own trainer at the house. And and they'll just throw money at you for their horse to win. It's just like the racehorse industry in America. There's not a lot of people that don't have a lot of money doing this, because it is so expensive to do it. It is so expensive to haul. We have to have the exams to travel.
Oh my gosh.
We have to have the exams to come back. We pay $300 in a stall. It's very expensive. So like my operation is really small. I go local shows, and when I have a really good horse, I go to the big futurities. But I stay local because it's a lot cheaper for
But
me.
just so people understand, even local is expensive.
Yes.
She and I went to a rodeo.
Mhm.
We took 3 horses because here you can do that, and it cost over $1,000
Mhm.
just to go
So-
without anything else, without the fuel, nothing. Just the entry fees were
Can you guys
$1,200.
kind of break down like where it starts? So you have to have blood pulled, then you have to go to the
Yes,
vet.
you have to have like your Coggins,
Yeah.
but here they check it. If you know the police stops you in the
Yeah.
road and they
Yeah.
ask for the papers, you need to have that or they think you're stealing the horse. So you have to have a folder for every horse to travel.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the horses have 2 exams. One is called for a disease called glanders, and one is for like a Coggins, which is equine infectious anemia. That costs us about $100 per horse, and we have to do that exam every 60 days. So if you
Every
have
60
10
days.
horses, you're spending $1,000, and you actually have to do it before 60 days, so you have your results in time
Before
to go to that
For
race.
for you to run.
Then
This
we
is
have-
hectic, you guys. I
Yeah.
would be lost.
Yeah, then we have to have like a health paper from the government, so we have to pay around $30 to $50 depending where you're at for that. You have to have that to go to the race. And as you know, when you get there, you get out and the vet is waiting there and he takes all your paperwork. And you don't get your paperwork back until you can prove you've paid your entry fees. And then you
And
pay
you have
him,
to pay the
and then you have to pay him another
return,
$30 or
yeah.
$50 to get your paperwork back and the health paper to return to your house. But if you don't have it and the police stop you, it's an $8,000 Brazilian fine, and they maybe will impound your truck and trailer and horses.
Mhm. So it's a big deal.
I'm not
And
gonna
then you
lie.
yeah.
I don't know if I could be a bro racer here.
For me, it was definitely a learning curve.
It's a process, you know. It's a process.
It's a process.
But anyway, so there's that the high cost, and then the main thing I think is different. Besides the setup, of course, this here we only run on standards. Just at the rodeos, we run at the smaller pens, and the main difference is there you have a futurity industry that will get the horses for 2, 3, or 4 years now. They have the derbies and stuff. And then this horse can go either to amateur rodeos, pro rodeos, can be a jackpot horse, he can be, go to only big races.
Youth rodeos, youth classes.
Yeah, he can go to
junior
high
stuff.
school rodeos, college rodeos. I mean, there are plenty you can do.
Lots of, yeah.
Here, everybody goes to the same races. We don't have races all day, every day of the week. We have big races, one or 2 big races every month, and then smaller races on the other weekends.
And some rodeos here and
And
there.
some rodeos, yeah. So whenever we go, like I take only 3-year-olds, but I'll go to the same place that she goes with her 10-year-old rodeo mare, to run on her female class or the open or, whatever.
Yeah, and real quick, so people understand, is our races are ran like a quarter horse show. So we have amateur classes, we have youth classes, we have female classes because it is a male-dominated sport, and most of the professionals
Our man.
are men. So what they did is they have a female class, just so any female can run, whether you're professional or not. And we have open junior for horses 5 and under.
We have the novice rider classes too.
Yeah, and
the
within
light
each
classes.
of those, you have separate divisions. So we have lots of divisions every day. And then the 4D is just something extra. And there's some races that don't even offer a 4D.
Yeah. Sometimes
So I
it's just
did-
the classes.
And I did notice your guys' split differences. If you have more D's,
Yes.
it's
When they do the 10D or 8D, they split with 0.3
yeah.
seconds. And when they do only a 3D or 2D, it's always half a second.
And so are these D's just generated by the amount of entries? Like how
No,
many
not
Ds?
really. It's guaranteed.
It's usually by the amount of money they're
Yeah,
going to pay
it's
out.
usually guaranteed. They're changing now, they're
Yeah.
putting some of the percentage of the entries in and
Right.
trying to make it because it's getting too expensive for the producers too, to have all this money to offer and then have to pay for the arena, then have to pay for
And they don't have
bathrooms
enough
and
people
pay for
And that's
people.
another thing too, like races are expensive here because one, we have to have an ambulance there, so they
Yes.
have to pay the city for the ambulance. You have to have a judge, sometimes more than one, and they charge $1,200 a day. So if you have a 3-day show, you're spending $3,600 just for
You
your
have to have a
judges.
tractor or two, a tank of water, something else to maybe work
You
the
have to have,
ground.
they pay the people to set up the barrels, to open the gates. They don't use volunteers. Like in America, you may be at an association and you volunteer to set the barrels up. Here, no, they pay people by the day to do that. So to even put on a show here
It's
is a
very
big
expensive, very expensive. So I guess that's the main difference, since we have all these classes, everybody goes to the same places. So I'm gonna train my colt, and you're my, possible customer in the future. You're gonna follow that colt every show because we go to the same shows and stuff like that. So it's good and it's not good, but it's part of it's a cultural thing. You can't change it. The people try to make futurity separate. It doesn't work. Nobody goes. People don't go with just their colts. They go with their colts when they can take the open horses, when they can take the amateur horses, when they can take the kids' horses.
Because their costs are high, because like we said, a lot of times these guys have trainers and those trainers have workers. So when you send someone to a show, you're paying a truck driver, because most trucks go here on trucks. Either they own it or they pay the freight.
Which is really high.
It's very high.
Very
So which
high.
I would say that is also a big difference for here, even just the way horses are traveled and
Yes,
like how you guys do that.
Yeah, you can't just put your horse in a trailer and just
No.
drive off.
No.
It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
I would come and be like, okay, let's go, guys, and I'd be fine in Brazilian jail.
Well, that will probably happen because and they don't really care, that you don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
but then like these workers and like for example the interview we did with Edgar, he has two assistants. They go with him to the shows.
Right.
So as the owner of the horses or the owner of the place, you're paying their food, you're paying their place to stay. Most of them sleep in the trucks, but some do get hotels.
For me, for example, when I travel, I take the driver. I have to pay his daily fee. I have to stay in a hotel because he sleeps in the truck, and it's not very cheap. For me to just go sightseeing with my colts, it's not very cheap. So I rather do try different ways and try to get there on a different way than
In all
just...
honesty, it's very common for these bigger farms to spend $10,000 a weekend.
Oh yeah.
Easily. Even me myself with small, just taking 3 horses I just have 3 horses.
Oh, we have been to big shows that
I've
we spent $8,000.
Yeah.
Just with half a dozen horses.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's why like I don't ride like these other people do.
Yeah.
I don't have that big of operation.
Yeah.
I don't go that much, but I do things a little cheaper. I ride my own.
Same.
I help a lot of people, which help me too, with my cost
Yeah.
and stuff. I teach clinics.
Yeah.
And I travel, to coach people. I don't really sell it as a clinic because it's really a one-on-one. I go to your place and I work on your horses and I work with your trainer and I work with you. So it's not really for like a class or anything like that. I don't do that. That's just
Lessons.
too complicated.
Lessons.
Yeah, it's just lessons.
Yeah.
And I get to ride my own, and I've been very lucky to be able to sell everything that I've put out there, and some of them did really good. With other people. Some of them are doing good now.
Yeah.
So I've just been really blessed to be, able to do it.
Right.
Kind of in an American way, but here in Brazil.
But doing it in Brazil.
I guess it's.
So another common question is like, what is your conditioning program? You kind of went a little bit over that.
Yeah, like I said, I do a lot of drills. I feel like, making them trot around tires and bigger tires and smaller tires will help them work on their core muscles and their back muscles too. So I do a lot of that, and I do a lot of the training for speed, or for endurance sometimes if they're a little out of shape. So what I do is sometimes I do just the endurance training. I do 10-15 minutes just loping, small relaxed lope around the arena, and then I do it both sides and I put them away. Then,
and you may not know this, but Pedro's arena is very sandy.
It's very sandy. So they have to really pull and.
So like sandy, different from like the red dirt.
Yeah.
Yes, like white dirt.
So did you have to like?
No, that's just our area there. It's just like that. It's horrible for everything else.
Do we have a beach
just not
there?
For everything else, it's terrible.
It's
And I'm in
terrible.
the opposite. I have this nice red fertile ground, but it's my arena. It gets hard like in one day.
Yeah, mine you can't grow anything in it. Just make them turn barrels. So what I do is that I do one endurance training. I do one of explosion training, which I do kind of the same thing. I start loping them around, and once they're pretty warmed up, I choose one of my straight lines to really ask them and then I let them really stretch for 5 or 6 strides, and then I pull them up and I lope the rest of the arena, and then when I get to the same point I let them go again, and I do that about 4 or 5 times, usually to the same side, and then I put them away. When I work them on, another day I'll do it on the other side, just so they don't get super overworked on one thing, because it is really hard for them on my sandy ground.
Right.
And that's pretty much, the two kind of trainings that I do for fitness. Okay, so I feel like I did that on a horse that I felt like she didn't run a lot, a couple of years ago. And I started to work her like that. And at some point I didn't even work her on the barrels anymore. I just working her body and just working her sprints. And she got like 3 or 4 tenths faster. Just working that. Yeah, just doing that. So I feel like it works because I've seen it, on a horse that's not ate up with speed. Right. So it does help. And I feel like I don't do that so much when they're too young. Yeah. But once they're 4 and they're running and they have that rhythm, they have a better mind, they can take it. Like my colts now, they need to learn how to run. So I'll do that a couple times, but I won't do it every week. Okay, I'll do that, a couple times just to get them the experience, and then I'll bring them back and I'll slow things down and help their mind, absorb everything, and then we'll go from there. So it's like I said, it's all a process. I don't think we ever quit training them. There's always something that you can do better. There's always something that you have to attend more on one horse or the other. So it's just a long process, and it's hard for us when they go out to other people, because usually this, whoever gets your horse does throw your program all.
Right, the process changes,
But, if you did your job, you have a solid horse no matter what, and you have a horse that's well-minded and, that can probably take a little bit of that change, later on. Totally. I don't know that a 3 or 4-year-old can deal with the change so well as a 5 or 6-year-old. So it really depends that and how the people, I usually try to help people that get my horses.
Right.
The first one I sold to one of the best trainers. So I was like, dude, just have fun. And he did. I mean, she run 12, 16-second patterns with them, and, she was amazing. But I try to help my people because it is different. It is more American. I ride with one hand, I hold the horn. Not a lot of people do this here. Here everybody rides two-handed.
So this is another big difference between USA and Canada and here, like the riding style. And I wouldn't say I've read it like someone like you are a little bit more Americanized in my eyes, but there's a lot of people that, they kind of ride. And why is that?
Well, I feel like this is because here people don't learn horsemanship from the beginning. They're just talented.
They just get it done.
They just get it done. So if most these trainers, or most these assistant trainers or these colt starters, they were bull riders when they were 15 or 16 or 17.
Even the majority of the trainers.
So they could get with one.
I have seen a guy hang out the side, and I was blown away.
Well, yeah, because they were bull riders. I mean, so they moved to horses later on, and they are just that talented. And so they can make things happen, with no finesse. They can just go there and do it and just drag them around and just do it. So that's why it's different, because they win.
No, but
they're fast.
Let me say something too. We've seen some of these same guys get older and they adapted more to the American style.
That is very true.
I've seen that with several good ones.
Yeah, that is very true.
And then some fall off the map because they don't adapt, and you get to a point where you're too old that you can't.
Well,
you can do it.
For my view, I would personally, I would rather, if I would have wanted to buy a horse, right, I would look to who was riding it, because that style, I mean, I wouldn't be able to go to.
But that's the thing
here.
here.
The thing here, they don't care about that.
Yeah. And also, there's two ways of thinking, because a lot of these guys don't care about that. They just want to win. A lot of the owners don't care about that because they just want their horse to win. Right. But you have a huge market for the amateur horse. Huge market for the kids' horse.
There's a lot
for the guy that wants to the 50 or 60-year-old guy that wants to just go run barrels, on the weekends. And the industry doesn't produce horses for those people. So that's where I found my branch,
same for me,
because our horses are easy. And they can go to a kid. My last horse I sold to a 10-year-old. There was a 10-year-old running rodeos on her.
Yeah.
and she's amazing. So I feel like, you know, there's a lack of that
Right.
because we that are trying to do that, we don't win as much as those guys, so they show up a lot.
And then
But
what
their
happens-
horses don't last,
Don't go
and our
well,
horses
and here's what
last.
happens to us sometimes too. We'll go out with a young colt and we'll start placing, and the trainers send the owner to buy it and they put it in the trainer's hands.
Yeah, because they think they can do so much better
And
than
sometimes-
us.
and they usually do in my case.
Well, they usually do, but it doesn't last. It's
And
just
then
like
that
the
horse
rest.
doesn't go
you know?
on to another amateur or things like that, you know.
So-
Even-
Its career is shortened in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for us, I mean, we really actually have it the best of both worlds because we can start one, and if he's good and he catches the attention of a trainer, we can sell him like that, and they'll go and do stuff, you know, because they'll go and win.
Yeah.
Or we can finish them and sell them to a little girl or, you know,
Yeah,
older
rodeo.
dude or something.
Every time I take my colts to rodeos, they're like, is that for sale? Is that for sale? Is that for sale? Because what's kind of interesting is most of the trainers don't go to rodeos, or they go just to help the owner or the daughter
Yeah,
of
they
the
don't.
owner.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And usually I'm the only one they're actually training horses for rodeos,
Mhm.
apart from a couple of others
Mhm.
now, but it's really the minority.
Mm-hmm.
And but now my focus has been USA, so I've just been kind of
Yeah.
more doing this.
But there is a huge market here. I mean, I've been selling horses for 4 or 5 years, you know, for those kind of people.
Right.
You know, horses that came in and, you know, sometimes I put a year on, sometimes I put 6 months on, sometimes I put 2 years on, and they went on to do great stuff. So
Yeah, well-
it's pretty cool, but you know, it's not easy. It's not
Yeah.
easy because of course we want to win too.
Oh,
You know, of
yeah.
course we want to go there
Everyone's
and
got
have
a little
that
winners.
best
Yeah,
horse.
Yeah,
and-
it's, you know, you have to have a really strong character to train horses here because a lot of times the bigger trainers put their assistants on the horses that aren't quite finished or the problem horses, and then there's people like Pedro and I that we're still running with.
Yeah,
horses.
you have to
So
go
we
through
go
all
in
of them.
there and look really bad, and we know the horses will get better. But in order to take that failure over and over,
Yeah,
you
because
have
they
to
don't
have
want to
pretty
look
strong character.
bad
They don't wanna look
until
bad.
the horse is more solid or anything like that. So they will only get on those because they're jockeys. They're
And
professional
they need
jockeys.
to do that. The
Yeah.
truth is, for them to run these fast 16s and have this exceptional timing, it would be crazy for them to get back on a problem horse or a young
Yes,
horse.
I agree. I agree.
You know,
and
I
if you
don't
think
blame
about
them.
this
It's pretty
guys,
smart.
so if you think about this guys, like we can't really compete with them because I make probably what 30 runs a year.
Right.
These
Oh,
guys
same,
make
30
these
runs a
make-
day.
These guys make 30
Literally.
runs in
Yeah.
one day.
It's crazy.
And fast runs.
Yeah.
So I mean, their timing is impeccable. They have when they haul 40 head to the barrel race, they have 30 that are open horses.
That are like sub 17.
You know, that are already made
guys.
their mark. They already run their
When I
time.
heard that Sydney brought 60 head of horses, I just about pooped my pants.
Well, he comes with 3 trucks.
I was like,
he's
this
not the
is
only one who does it.
completely
And that was a
insane.
small show.
Yeah,
A
he's
big
not
show,
the-
there's
Yeah,
20
he
that
takes,
do that.
yeah.
God.
You'll see the open classes, like open junior, open senior, and let's say there's 200 horses in that class, there'll only be like 6 or 7 or 10 riders.
Yeah, that's just wild to me.
It's wild to me
So
still, even after
wild.
living here all the time.
But they do have a number. I think they have a number. They can run 6 horses, I think.
Yeah, and it all depends if it's mares or geldings. So what happened is these great guys that were winning were getting all the horses. So the association stepped in and put a rule on the amount of horses you can enter, and they wanted to promote geldings.
Okay.
So they said, okay, you can only run 4 horses in a class,
But
but if 2 of them are geldings, you can run 6. Something like that. I don't know
yeah,
the
I
exact
think
rule.
it's like 3. You can run 6 horses if 3 of them are geldings.
And so that helped to
If not, you can only run 3 mares or studs.
Yeah.
3 mares or studs, and then the rest have to be geldings.
And that
If it's
helps.
4, the
Helps
4th
so
horse
far.
needs to be a gelding. If it's
Oh.
6, the
Well,
6th
that's
horse
kinda
needs
cool
to be a
that
gelding.
Yeah, and that, because our gelding industry was
Really bad. Yeah, it
really
was
bad.
really bad. You
And now
can
it's-
sell a gelding for nothing here. You know, it
And
was
now they
horrible.
cost the same as studs. They're the
So-
same price.
Yeah, and now you can actually win more money with them.
Right,
You know,
on a
'cause-
gelding.
Yeah, on a gelding because
Yeah.
there are just the gelding classes too.
And there's a lot of incentives for geldings. Like, let's say we have a futurity with the
Yeah.
association, the year in futurity, they will also place out like a side pot
For
of
the
the
geldings.
geldings.
I think Canada should get into this, you guys.
It's actually
It's
pretty
kind of
cool.
interesting, yeah.
Well, it's what they found, you know, because it really paid good. You know, if you go to the association shows, let's say you went to Congress or Nationals, and you were out of the money, okay, you were 6th or 7th in the class, but your horse was the best placed gelding.
Right.
there was like a 9% fee from the all the entries that would go to the best place
Like
building.
2,000 or 3,000.
So even if you didn't win any money in the class,
You could still
you
make-
could still make
From
money
building
for
Kind of
side
like a
pot.
side,
the
yeah,
cla-
like
yeah.
a side pot.
So that was cool, and a lot of people just started doing that more. And now I guess there are more amateurs, there are more people. So now the geldings have a better value, because there's a lot of people that want a horse that they don't want to breed later. They don't want a mare that they have to breed later. They want a gelding for them to enjoy, have fun for a few years, maybe pass it on to their little kid later.
Yeah.
And just take care of that one.
And just
So it's
stay on the farm.
changing. It's slow, but it's changing.
Yeah.
And going back to comparison USA and Brazil, I actually, when I first sent my first horse to USA, I had a little bit of a panic attack because in USA the horses get old and they can actually be slaughtered, or so, the Mexico or
Yes.
Canada, and here we don't really have horse slaughter. So a lot of times when these geldings get older, a lot of these people, they have branches and the horse becomes a workhorse, or he just stays in the pasture, in a green lush pasture like you see behind us, for the rest of his life. So the truth is, when a horse's career is over here, it's actually better than sometimes when the horse's career is over in the United States. And I think some people don't see that because you hear these rumors, oh, horse goes to Brazil and it dies. Well, horses die in USA too, but believe me, when somebody spends the money and effort to bring a horse here, the last thing they want it to do is die.
Yeah.
And
No, and I think
Oh yeah, it's
yeah,
almost like
people
a kid.
were like,
It's
oh,
almost
it's
like a bit-
insurance, but it's not for insurance.
Y'all don't
money.
understand
No,
that our
no.
horses can't go in the grass because the tick disease will kill them
Yeah, and a lot
when
of
they
times,
just got here.
yeah, because they have no
And
resistance
see,
to this
and I think
pyroplasmosis.
that's what people I think were wondering is why is this rumor come about that horses
Well,
die?
what happens is, it's like Pedro said, it's like horse racing. So let's say you're the owner of these horses and you import a famous stallion. We'll even use Dash for Perks as an example. One, the horse was kind of old, and when you move an old stallion, it's hard on them to begin with. But let's say you get Dash for Perks here, and you have this pretty mowed grass pasture, and so you turn him out in a little paddock for a couple of hours of every day. Well, if he gets one tick, because he has no immunity to this disease, and then what happens is this, because the workers here and the trainers and people are so used to the disease, and the horses here have a natural immunity, they're not looking for those symptoms.
Right.
So the horse starts to get kind of sick,
Sick.
and they don't really notice it right off the bat because it's not something that's for one day and one night.
Yeah.
You just start to notice after maybe like a week that, man, he's not looking very good. And
It
then
doesn't look like he's feeling very good.
and then you're like, oh, we'll give him some Banamine, we'll see if he has a fever, and then the disease progresses, and then it gets to the point where it just,
For an older horse that never been exposed to it, it's really dangerous.
Very
It doesn't have to be an older horse. It can be a younger stallion. It can be a 6-year-old. It still will be really sick. So it's it happens.
And I think the owners, for example, Frenchman's Vanilla and even Dash for Perks and some of these other famous horses that did come here and happened to pass away, they passed away from the pyroplasmosis. But believe me, the owners never wanted that.
No.
Ever.
No, that's not
And
something
so is there any sort of like vaccine that you can
No, I
you
know.
can treat it, but you
And
have to
you have to
treat
catch it in time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like for example, we had a great mare together, this best trick of fling mare in Brazil. And one day I walk outside, I think she's dead. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's dead. Because I didn't know much about pyroplasmosis at the time. And I go out there and I'm like pushing her and she kind of wakes up and I make her get up and she's real lethargic. And I promise you, I rode her the day before and didn't really notice much. And I called the vet and she had the disease because she had zero immunity, and we saved her and she came back and was fine. But
Yeah.
I think it's because I was there every day with her.
Well, and I think that is a big difference here too. It's different. You guys have workers, like the ranches. So it can get lost and.
Oh yeah.
Translation,
That is a
yes,
big
yeah,
problem here,
yes.
because it's a big problem for y'all too, because a good work hand is hard to find, especially one that will take care of your horse like you would.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes you can't, sometimes you don't live in the ranch, sometimes you can't
Or you're
see
gone,
your horse every
maybe
day.
you're
Or,
at a show.
yeah, or sometimes you're gone and you need somebody there to
For example,
care for that
where
stuff.
Dash for Perks and even Frenchman's Vanilla were at, he owns a huge company. Huge company,
They
and I
have
don't
a
know
lot of
how,
money.
I don't even know how many employees he must have. So, he's not there seeing these horses every day.
Yeah.
You know, But believe me, people, nobody wants a horse to come here and die, and it is not for insurance money because most of the time the horses are not even insured.
Insured at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Our
don't do
insurance
it.
here is expensive and hard to collect on, so we never. I've insured some horses, but fortunately, I've never had to try to collect. Well, we did have one horse together, a stallion that died from the disease that was at another place, and it took a year for them to get the insurance money.
Yeah. It wasn't very easy to do all the, and we had to give up, our part of the horses.
Yeah, we even gave up on it. I mean, it was, so that rumor about horses coming to Brazil to die, that is completely
But it is
fake.
not, but it is not easy to bring a horse here.
No, it is. It's easier to bring a horse here than it is to take one there.
But I mean, to bring a horse here and
It just costs a lot of money to bring one from there to here now. It doesn't cost as much to bring one from here to there.
It's about the same.
It is.
It's about the same.
It used to be a lot cheaper.
No, it's 15,000 to go there and 20,000 to come here.
It used to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, not anymore.
Well, but yeah, it's not something that you want it to happen. Just like the people that brought horses to America. You don't want your horse to get sick.
No.
For example, we don't have West Nile here. You have West Nile there.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of the diseases, the outbreaks like we see in the States.
the strangles.
No, we have strangles.
Oh, we
but
have
like
strangles,
those
yeah.
herpes viruses that we see where they
Yes.
shut down certain fairs and parks because so every country has its thing.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
And
Yeah, in a tropical country it's a little more, but it's still, you still care for them, you still take care of them, and I have my mare is happy and healthy, and she came from Utah to Texas, and then from Texas to here, and
no, I think between Pedro and I, we've imported well over 30 horses, and only one passed away, and he passed away 5 years after.
5 years after, it was a long time.
Yeah.
We never had one get really sick and die from
Yeah.
that at our place. That was never happened.
So that's pretty neat to get that rumor cleared up.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting to learn what really goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. So we're gonna hope everyone has a great Christmas. As you can tell, we are not that cold here. It's actually a hot summer day here in Brazil, and we actually have some flies here because it was a nice day and I opened the windows. You'll be able to catch Pedro's training videos on SKTV after the first of the year. And if you have any questions, you can find him on Instagram, you can find him on Facebook, you can even message us to our page. Even to our website page, you can send a message and one of our girls there can get you in touch with Pedro. And we really appreciate you coming, appreciate all your information.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, we hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas. Before long, we'll have the Edgar interview up as well because it needs to be translated. It's going to take a little bit longer. But thank you for listening to us. And again, hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.